Hello again, guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to look at simplifying and evaluating algebraic expressions. If you'll recall, an algebraic expression is an expression that contains at least one variable. So first I want to define a few terms for you so that you know exactly what it is that we're doing when I use them. So first, what does it mean to evaluate? We did talk about this last year, but we'll review it. Evaluating simply means I'm plugging in the numbers that I'm given for the variables, and then I'm going to simplify, or what that just means is compute, do the math. Like terms. This is important to know when we're simplifying, because our like terms simply mean terms in the problem that have the exact same variable. So if it's raised to the same power and the same letter, we can't mix and match. They have to be the same for us to combine them. Simplest form simply means an expression no longer has any like terms that I can combine, so I'm complete because it's in its simplest form. The other thing you need to know, a constant refers to a number that doesn't have a variable, just a plain old number that's never going to change. And the coefficient refers to a number in front of a variable. It tells you how many times you're multiplying that variable. So for simplifying, what do? Well, simplifying simply we want to find our like terms, and if you'll notice in the problem I've given you, I've already underlined them. And then we're going to simplify by basically completing the mathematical operation that it's asking. So what we need to remember when we're looking at terms is to keep each of them separate. Here's one term, here's another term. Terms are separated by operating signs. So plus, a minus, this is a third term, and here's a fourth term. You'll notice I boxed the number or the operation that goes with it in front of it with that term, because that is what we're doing with that term, so we need to make sure they stay together. So here I had underlined in pink are two like terms. These both have j's in them. This is an x. X's and j's do not go together. They're puzzle pieces that don't fit. Here we have our constant. There is no variable with it. There's nothing for us to combine that with. It doesn't have a variable, so it can't combine with these other ones either. So if we look, the only thing we can combine are our j's. 4j, and if you look, this is minus 2j. So we want to make sure that we keep that minus sign with it. So what is 4j minus 2j? Well, if I have 4 apples and I take 2 away, I'm left with 2 apples. Same idea here with your j's. So I've got 2 of these j's left. So then we just put that back in there, keep these other terms that can't be combined. This is in its simplest form right here. Why? Because there's no more like terms for us to combine. So it's okay that there's still 3 terms. Don't try to combine them. We can only combine the terms that are alike. So we'll do a couple of problems like that. All right, so we're going to try a few examples by combining our like terms. So if we look here, the first thing we want to do is we want to find where are like terms in the expression. So here I have 3m squared n, and I have a 2m squared n. They have the exact same variables raised to the same power. So that makes them like terms. That means I can combine them. If you look, I have a constant here. That we can't combine. It doesn't have a variable with it. It's going to stay on its own. So let's just look at this. We want to add our coefficients and keep our variables. So 3 plus 2 is a 5. Keep our variable, m squared n. Then we're going to add our constant back in. You'll notice it says the absolute value of -8, so we want to simplify that just by doing the operation. The absolute value of -8 is 8, so it's just 5m squared n plus 8. Now it's in its simplest form. We can't combine anything else. We take a look down here. This one sometimes throws kids off. I have 4w minus w. If there's no number in front of a variable, there's an implied 1. If I have an apple, it means I have 1. I don't have to say the 1, it's implied. Same thing here with our variables. If there's 1 on its own, it means I have 1. So I'm taking 4w minus 1w, which leaves me with 3w. Over here I have a constant. It doesn't have a variable. It can't be combined. So just write that down there in your answer. So again, here we want to look for our like terms. And we actually, in this last one, have 2 sets of like terms. I have 2 constant terms that I can combine to simplify. And I have 2 variables that are like, that I can combine to simplify. Xy squared, here I have 3xy squared. So Again, if there's not a variable, there's an implied 1. 3 plus 1 gives me 4xy squared. Then we want to combine our constants. So if you look here, it's the absolute value of negative 7. So we want to do that operation first. What is the absolute value of negative 7? 7. So now I have 5 plus 7 for my constants. I can combine them, and I wind up with 12. So my answer is 4xy squared plus 12. Last thing we want to look at is evaluating. And evaluating just means take the numbers that you're given, plug them in, and then you can solve the equation. And I'm going to pull out the calculator for this one. So the first thing I do is just rewrite it with the numbers. So here I've got a times b times c. I've told you that a is equal to 3, b is equal to negative 2, and c is equal to 5. So I rewrite it with the numbers so we don't get confused as we're doing the operation. Luckily, this one's easy enough for me to do in my head. So remember, when we're multiplying, we're going to multiply all our digits, then we're going to count how many negative signs we have. So 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 5 gives me 30. I have one negative sign, which is odd, so that means my answer is going to be negative. So we're going to do the same thing over here, plug my numbers in, and then just solve following order of operations. So a squared, a was 3, so that means I'm going to take 3 squared. I'm going to subtract the absolute value of negative c. Well, c is positive 5, so it becomes negative 5. So we're just going to simplify using our order of operations. So let's start with our exponent. 3 squared is 9. Let's simplify our absolute value. The absolute value of negative 5 is 5. So I wind up with 9 minus 5, which gives us 4. So again, just remember, plug them in. C is 5. 5 cubed minus 4 times a, which is 3, and b squared, which is negative 2 squared. This one I might use calculator for. 5 cubed gives us 125. Remember, we want to do our exponents first, following order of operation. Negative 2 squared is going to give me a positive 4. So then I want to do my multiplication before I can subtract. 4 times 3 times 4 is going to give me 48. When I subtract 48 from 125, I wind up with 77. So really, we're just combining what we've done before. Plug your numbers in, follow your order of operation. We'll do one more. Got a negative 2 times 3 plus 5. Order of operation tells me I need to start by doing my parentheses. When I add those, I get 8. Negative 2 times 8. 2 times 8 is 16. One negative sign, so my answer is also negative. If you have any questions, rewatch the video or feel free to post them in the comments, or you can ask tomorrow. I'll see you guys tomorrow in class.